Right, so welcome back, Elaine, for another Art of Living Do a live session. We'll make this a fairly short one. So we're just going to go into today's quote, a bit of teaching on that. This is all about finding your flow, following your bliss. Let's start off with a quote by Joseph Campbell. You can read that to for us. And they'll lead us into the teach on it, and then we'll go into today's lesson, which is related, and we'll finish the session with a meditation on the lesson. Okay, so let me share the screen then. Yeah, so if you can read that quote by Joseph Campbell, who's an American writer and who formulated the hero's journey, which we'll talk about now. I think you muted, Elaine.
Follow your bliss. If you do follow your bliss, you put yourself on a kind of track that has been there all the while waiting for you. And the life you ought to be living is the one you are living. When you can see that, you begin to meet people who are in the field of your bliss, and they open the doors to you. I say, follow your bliss and don't be afraid. And doors will open where you didn't know they were going to be. If you follow your bliss, doors will open for you that would not have opened for anyone else.
Yeah, so it's a great quote talking about follow your bliss. What does that actually mean? We'll explore that. Who was Joseph Campbell, an American professor of literature who really discovered and then he formulated what he called the hero's journey based on his studies of the myths and legends of many seemingly different cultures, religions, philosophies, and spiritual traditions. So he talks about the power of following your bliss, term he used to refer to an inspired purpose that activates a flow of positive, helpful energy in the hero's or the heroine's life. So analytical psychologist Carl Jung called this synchronicity. Another psychologist, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, called it flow. Yeshua calls it miracles, and A Course in Miracles. Doesn't really matter what you call it, it's the same thing. You know, bliss, flow, synchronicity, just different terms for the same thing. Because it's pointing to the same thing. And Campbell found that there was one universal story that every one of these myths, this monomyth, as he called it, is the story of the hero's journey that the heroes or the heroines of the stories in these various traditions choose to undertake in order to discover who they really are, despite the obstacles, trials, temptations, and challenges presented by their ego, which is just their belief in separation and their separate self-concept. That is a necessary consequence of the belief in separation. So there's one story really always going on. It's the story of awakening from the belief in a separate self to the belief in something else, to knowing who you really are. And it has three main stages. This is the archetypal hero's journey that he formulated. First of all, departing the known world that's perceived with your, quote, normal thought system. So that's where we begin. We all start in the known world as apparently egos. And usually we're not very happy, right? The reason why we depart from it is because we're not very happy in it. The second phase is in initiation into the unknown world, perceived with new spiritual awareness. So we usually have to go through a process to an adventure. Often we get some kind of aid, supernatural aid. Often that comes in the form of guidance from people, from books, from movies. We often encounter what's called threshold guardians. So often there's someone in our lives or people in our lives who go, oh, you can't do that. There's no way you can do that. You're not good enough. You're not worthy enough. You'll never make it. You'll fail. And these are what we call threshold guardians in the journey. But if you are willing to persist and go through that, then you get over the threshold and you cross over into the second phase, which is initiation. So that's when you get through that line between the known and the unknown world. And in initiation, it's an adventure. You don't know anymore. You're in an unknown world. Thought system and perception can't guide you in that world. You're opening yourself up to a different way of experiencing and perceiving. And when you're on this journey, you often get mentors and guides and helpers who come along to help you on the journey, which is challenging. There's challenges, there's temptations, there's trials, there's inevitably failure. And that's all part of the process of learning and growing the person that you are. And then at the sort of the bottom of this cycle is when you hit rock bottom, there's the abyss of the death of the ego. You go through this death of a separate self. It can be quite traumatic. It can be quite painful. But there is a rebirth into a new self, a transformed self, which is what transformation is all about. You've transformed your self-concept. You've atoned. The one-ment is the journey back to the one self. You realize that you're not really separate, that you are one with everyone and everything else. And once you've attained that knowledge, you return into the known world, but now as an awareness with an awareness of who you truly are. And so if you look at, the great mystics and masters like Yeshua, the Buddha, Lao Tzu, Socrates, Krishna, other spiritual masters, and many of the myths and traditions, this is the journey that they went on. And they return then as the awakened person who comes to call others to their own adventure. So Yeshua came back, having been through this profound journey, he came back into his society, to the known world, and he challenged all of those perceptions, and he called everyone to adventure, and the ones who followed him became his disciples, followers, and he helped them go on their own hero's journey of awakening, which is really, once you've returned, it's the only thing to do. You realize there's no other purpose in life but to go through this hero's journey of awakening. So, since Campbell published his classic book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces, in 1949, Hollywood scriptwriters and movie directors have expanded and refined this three-stage model into this 12-step process that's been used as the blueprint for the scripts of epic movies and movie series such as The Matrix, Avatar, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter. These are some of the biggest movie franchises of all time. Avatar's the best-selling movie of all time. Star Wars is, I think, the second most successful series. The Rings, Harry Potter, all blockbuster movies that millions and millions of people have seen because there's something in the stories that resonates with them. So let's just go through phases of the hero's journey as it's played out in these stories. Obviously, there's some variation. It doesn't always happen exactly the sequence, but the key elements are in there. So the ordinary world is the world of your existing perception, where you are. If you remember in The Matrix, you see Neo asleep at his computer and he's searching for something, he's searching for Morpheus. So that's his world. Then he literally gets a knock on the door, which is the call to adventure. Someone at his computer hacks in and says, knock, knock, follow the white rabbit. That's the call to adventure. And he follows the white rabbit. And then he meets a guide. He meets a mentor, being Trinity, down in the dungeon of the club. And she says, they're looking for you and we want to help you. So he's been contacted. But then Morpheus contacts him at work. He's late for work the next day and says, well, they're coming to get you and you need to get out via the window and cross the door. And he refuses the call, if you remember. So he says, I can't do this. So they take him into captivity. Those are the threshold guardians, right? So he meets the agents, threshold guardians, who's saying, no, you're not the one. You think you're special, but you're not. Actually, just, Thomas Anderson, you need to cooperate with us and need to help us catch this guy you spoke to, Morpheus. But he doesn't listen to them. He follows his guidance, and eventually he meets his mentor, Morpheus. He gives him the choice to take the red or the blue pill. He takes the red pill. That's the stage when he crosses the threshold. He literally goes out of the normal world, the dream, and dramatically awakens, and then he's pulled up into the ship, and then that's the beginning of the second act, the adventure, where he begins his training. So he starts to do all kinds of exercises in the Matrix. He's learning about this new world. He's learning his own powers. There's allies, there. Morpheus and Trinity want the best for him, but he also has an enemy who's out to get him in Cypher. And then he has to go through the ordeal. He has to go back into the Matrix. He has to save Morpheus, and then he has to face one of the agents and fight him, which is his ordeal. He gets killed. He resurrects. Literally, there's a resurrection. There's an at-one-ment. And then the final scene of the movie is he returns. He's back in the Matrix, and you see him in the call box, and he's calling someone, the architect of the Matrix, and saying, I'm going to show people what you don't want them to see. I'm going to awaken them. So he's returned as the awakened one, the one who's going to awaken the others. Classic hero's journey. And you could do that same analysis for any of these other movies. Star Wars, Avatar, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter. They follow the same basic sequence of the three acts broken into these 12 films. If you want to go deeper into that, there's an article here, which is definitely worth watching. It goes worth reading. It goes into the 12 phases in more detail, and it modified 12 heroes' journey steps. Step 1, the ordinary world, the call to adventure, and then it gives examples of different movies, and how that plays out. Call to adventure and so on. So very helpful, very useful article. Suggest you read it if you haven't. And if you want to go even deeper, click on that. You can download the book, A Hero with a Thousand Faces, which is really what launched this whole movement. The great directors and script writers like George Lucas read this, and based on their understanding of the hero's journey, they then started writing these amazing movies that show us these heroes' journeys, and you see after 1950 the movies in Hollywood changed, and you got a lot of these kind of hero's journey movies because there was an understanding that came from Joseph Campbell's work. So you see how he really did change the world. That's profoundly influenced the world in ways he couldn't have anticipated by following his own bliss, by doing what he felt called to do. He spawned a whole industry. Different, Hollywood probably still exists, but not in the same form if it weren't for Joseph Campbell. So definitely worth diving into that if you have time, reading the hero's journey. The journey with a hero with 1,000 faces. And if you don't have time for that, read the article. So at the beginning of a new year, it's probably just worth spending a couple of minutes reflecting on where you are in your hero's journey, as it should help you to accept that your current circumstances is part of a process of awakening to the truth of who you really are. And everything you experience, especially the challenges you're facing, is really helpful to your awakening and ultimate happiness if you perceive them correctly. So you might be in the midst of a test, a challenge. It might feel really difficult, maybe painful, mental, physical, emotional pain. But if you understand that this is where you are in your journey, you're just going through the adventure, the testing phase, and that if you carry on, you're going to progress through this, and there's always help. You will get the help and the guidance because you're not alone. And every hero has the support of the Holy Spirit, which then inspires helpers and guides and mentors to come and help you at key points in the journey to help you make the right decision. So where do you think you are in the journey, Elaine? Going through some of these down this curve, going through some of the trials, some of the tribulations, some of the failure,
Yeah,
and growing. You know,
yeah. So
there's an opportunity in every one of them for growth
yeah,
and to learn the new skill of letting go.
yeah. So very much there. Yes, sort of this trials
Hmm.
and the growth. Yeah. So I'm ready now to
Yeah.
jump into the death and the rebirth.
Hmm. Yeah, well, that's where it goes, and when that happens, it usually feels like death. It's horrible, but again, if you understand the process, then you realize, well, this is all part of the process, so it's okay.
Mm,
That's why
yeah.
understanding a model like this can be so helpful. So imagine going through this and you had no idea what's happening
Oh
to you.
well, yes. That would be
You might be like,
torture.
oh my God, mad, my life's falling apart. And when actually in the models, okay, well, actually, no, this is the hero's journey, and I'm not the first one to follow this archetypal pattern. In fact, every hero that's ever walked the earth has had to follow the same process, and it wasn't easy. And well, then it's easier to accept. Okay, well, it's normal. It's part of the process of awakening. And I can accept it. And I see on the other side of these experiences, there is the at-one-ment, there is the return to society as an awakened being. And in this, you find your true purpose. This is where following your bliss really comes into it. You know, you follow your bliss, and sometimes it really doesn't feel like bliss. It feels like a lot of hassle and a lot of trouble and difficulty and pain, which is why a lot of people stop. But if you go through those obstacles and you're willing to take it to its logical conclusion, you will get to the awakening and to who you really are. And then you return as a transformed human being. And now you're in a great position to help others. And then that becomes your bliss. And that's normally what awakened beings do. They end up being teachers of others. Because what else is there to do? Once you've understood the truth, you just want to share it
Mm,
with others. So they turn to teaching, communicating, teaching, and that is then the highest calling. Think of the greatest people in the world. Who
mm.
comes to mind? You thought of a truly great person, a great life. It's not the business people,
No, no.
it's not the politicians, it's not the statesmen.
Well,
It's
it's
the
just
people who stood for something more, who
yeah.
stood for some kind of transcendent
Mother
reality. And,
Teresa.
and the ones who are the greatest are the ones who stood for that the most. So think of Yeshua,
Yeah.
possibly, the
Oh yeah.
greatest,
Well, he was the
greatest
greatest in
life
anybody.
that's ever been lived. He stood for the transcendent. He stood for
He was the
eternal
ultimate.
life in
Yeah.
the face of the dream of death. And he took that to its extreme, the crucifixion, the resurrection. He demonstrated that probably more clearly than any other human being has done. And so, he had a great life and he had a huge impact on the world as a result. And that's what defines greatness is the willingness and the ability to walk this path and return to the world with this awakened knowledge of who you are, and then express that and teach that to the world. And the more you do that, the greater your journey, the greater your life will be. It doesn't mean everyone will acknowledge it and go, oh, wow, Elaine Clark was like an avatar or a legend. No, probably not. But that doesn't matter because
No, it's me.
the only thing that matters is, did you connect with your source? Did you allow the source to come into your awareness and live in and through you and express through you into the world to awaken you and others? Did you do that with your life, or did you refuse that call and you shut that down and you lived as an ego,
Yeah. Well,
an unawakened self?
yeah. I'm trying. I'm on the trials and so forth.
Yeah. And that's all that's required. It's just the
Yeah.
saying you're going to get this. You're
No.
not going to necessarily be there. You're obviously not going to be there at the start. The return as a transformed, awakened human being is the end of a process, and that process might take years.
Or lifetimes, yeah.
So yeah, it might take the rest of your life, but as long as you're on the journey, as long as you're not stuck in, okay, no, I'm refusing the call to adventure. I'm not going to go there, and I'm getting these signals, but I just, I'm really stubborn and I refuse to listen, and I just get stuck in the normal world. And then I will, I can't truly be happy here. I might think I can be happy for a while, but that, that this normal world is going to disintegrate. I was speaking to my sister, and she's like, well, nothing really prepares you. You think you have this sort of happy family and you've got parents and they're going to go on forever, but they don't. They get old. And they get old, and they're not the same as they were because they're really old, and they're in the final stages of life, and they're going to die. So it might have all seemed okay for a while, but it's not going to last, is it?
No, no. Well,
Which
yes,
is
because
why, we should use our time here wisely and say, okay, well, use your time for what it's for. Use your time to follow your hero's journey and use it to awaken
yeah,
from the dream. That's what it's for.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's those that are in the dream, and it's a fairly happy dream. They've met their perfect partner, and things are going hunky dory, but their biggest fear is
Well,
losing their partner. So,
yeah, exactly. For a while. Yeah, I'm not sure
so
that
they're
the
actually
perfect partner.
a bit.
That's because after 3 months or 6 months, the perfect partner snores. The perfect partner doesn't always do what you want them to do, and,
No, no. But
so
some
on.
people declare that
Doesn't
that
exist.
very few though, but one or two
Hmm.
do declare that their partner is
Yeah.
the love of their
Yeah.
life, as it were. And but the biggest fear is,
Hmm.
when they die.
Yeah. Then you're really attached. Now your partner means everything to you. And now, well,
They're
the
going,
reality is they're going to die at some point.
yes, and that's
Or they might leave you
yeah.
in one way or another. And so then
Mm,
you fear losing them. So because nothing in the dream world lasts. So you never find any kind of permanent happiness because it's always changing. The hero's journey just says, okay, I accept that, and I'm just going to journey through this to get beyond it, to the awakened self that is eternal, that knows that it is one with its creator, its source, and it doesn't change. And so I've gone through the impermanent, yet to the permanent self, to reality. And when I've awoken to that, well, what else is there to do but awaken others? So, well, this is really all that life is about. There's nothing else to do here but wake up to who you are. And that's the hero's journey. So it's very profound. We've been through it many times.
mm,
But nevertheless, don't gloss over it. It's a roadmap really for
mm,
your. So this is the archetypal hero's journey that everyone um, who is adventurous, who's going to listen to the call of spirit, is going to be on, and pay attention to it, because these stages you go through, and if you understand them, it's going to be easier to cope with them when you're going through the tests and you're
mm,
facing the enemies. Apparently, you're right. I'm just on my hero's journey, and this is all good. I'm through this process to awake ultimately to who I am. So yeah, I'll keep going because there is a reward. There's light at the end of the tunnel here.
mm.
I'll get through the
So,
difficulties, and what awaits me is a new self, a new life, a new world that is as good as it's going to get in this world. That
mm,
real dream is the best world can be for anyone. Yeah,
yeah,
question.
yeah. It's just obviously I'm sort of going through the trials, or I mean, at the moment things seem to be sort of okay, as it were. And there's not such great triggers as there was, say, a few months ago or last year. So I'm now going into the growth
Mm,
and the new skills. So now,
mm.
after that, I'm approaching this death and the rebirth. So it's just interesting how this is going to materialize. Does it mean now? Does it?
Yeah.
You
And
don't really know, do you? What you maybe You lose your home, you lose all your pets and everything.
Well, maybe or maybe not. It's not in form. It happens internally.
Mm,
So, in my case, like, everything changed 10 years ago, and I left South Africa, came to England,
mm.
changed careers, uh, had a child, had a family, and all of that change was a letting go of the old self and the death of that old self and the opportunity to awaken into a new self. But I can tell you, it wasn't easy. It was the hardest time of my life. And I had moments where I was like, I just don't know if I can handle this. And I think I'm going crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, but I had a spiritual practice and I understood this, although I hadn't actually come across the hero's journey yet. I understood from the course that there's a process to this, that this is about awakening. I understood the idea that the ego has to die and you have to die to the old self to be reborn.
So,
I read these ideas and I was like, okay, well, now you're actually experiencing it. Okay, this is what it means. I'm fine. I'm actually getting to grips with this awakening thing. It's no longer just a concept. I'm actually going through the process
the
of
experiencing
it,
it,
which it
yeah.
has to be. It's got to be experiential. It's not a
Yeah, of
theoretical
course, yes,
exercise.
there's no concepts, it's thought,
Hmm.
it's gone, yeah.
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 No
It's
one gets
just
to enlightenment. They're going, oh, yeah, I understand enlightenment and I've studied the teachings and I understand, what it is conceptually,
mm,
but I haven't actually
the
journeyed the
experience.
hero's journey and I haven't gone through my own trials and failure and the growth and the death of the ego. And I haven't been through that. Well, then you haven't awakened, have you? It's just
No, no.
theoretical,
Mm.
conceptual
Yeah.
knowledge. Those ideas can help you. The 10 years that I used to prepare myself for that were helpful because I had teaching, I had a framework to understand what I was going through. And, because I had that, I had somewhere to turn. Otherwise, I'm not sure what I would have done. And this is why
Mm.
people have midlife crises and nervous breakdowns, and then,
Mm.
they
Mm.
turn to substances and addictions and all sorts of things because they don't know how to cope. I
They
was
haven't
like,
been
okay,
able to get the right.
this is this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where I've got to practice this course. I have to learn this course. It's not just
Mm.
about, oh, I'm so clever and I know the course and I can be, some kind of spiritual teacher as another identity for my ego. No, it's like
Mm.
the course is to learn this and to help
Mm-hmm.
me to let go of this separate self that's pretty persistent and is, desperately trying to cling on to its
Mm.
identity, and this is what it's for. And so
Yeah.
I didn't teach, so I can't actually
Mm.
teach anyone. I'm just trying to get through this myself and come out the other side still intact, and not having killed myself or anyone else.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
as then a much more awakened person, I'm still, yeah. This is cyclical, so I've just been through a test and
Mm.
and trials and apparent enemies. And so it doesn't mean like I went through that one cycle. It's like,
Mm.
okay, well, it's almost like I'm doing it again. But every time you do it,
Yeah.
there's another level of awakening. There's another
Yeah. I've got,
something that
yeah.
drops away. The ego stripped away again.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the true self is revealed more. That's what life is about, is to do that, to reveal that.
Yeah. Because I guess that's what's happened to me. Every now and again you get a real challenge, whether it's death of a loved one or, and that sets your mind thinking, what on earth is this all about? And it's probably about 3 times in my life I've had those. So it's probably, like you say, you do sometimes go back for these trials and failures.
Yeah. And it's all part of letting go of that separate self that believes in it all
Mm.
and is then shocked and upset and appalled and whatever by these happenings.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
only a separate self can be that. Your true self is unmoved. Your true self knows that none of it's real. So
mm, mm.
however shocking the dream may seem to be, it's just a dream.
Yeah,
It's not reality. And
yeah,
uh, and that living in that is very deeply. This is not a trivial understanding. It's a very deep, heartfelt, experiential understanding that must be attained. Then you're awakened. Then you're the atoned one. You're the awakened one, the avatar who comes back and says, "Okay, I can really now be of help to others. I can really help them in this journey as a mentor and a guide on their journey because I've walked the path. I can show them, I can clear the path because I walked the path myself, and I know exactly how this goes because I've been there. Why is Yeshua such a great teacher? Because he's walked the path. He's been here. He's gone through the hero's journey, and he's gone through it all, and he's awoken. He knows exactly, and he understands the trials and tribulations and difficulties, and he's saying, yet you can overcome and just follow my guidance, the guidance of your internal teacher, Spirit, and you too, just as I did. You can also overcome, and you can also become the awakened. He said, you'll have all the power that I have, and even greater. You shall do these things that I've done, and even greater things than I've done. He said that. So he didn't say I'm some kind of special avatar, the only son of God. That was all made up afterwards. It was just the ego's misinterpretation and projecting specialness onto him. But that was never what he said. He said everyone actually is me. Everyone has the same power as I have. They just haven't been through the journey to awaken that power. So, my life is a call to them to awaken and go on their own hero's journey of awakening and wake up to the true self or the Christ that they really are and become as I became, the enlightened being, the Christ, and then teach others that. And that's the hero's journey. That's what we're all called to do. Which is just always bear that in mind. And then it's useful to remind yourself you're going through a trial, you're going through failure, you're going through tests. It's okay. This is all part of the process. It's okay. In fact, it's necessary, not just okay. You don't awaken without the trials and the tribulations and the failure. They are a necessary part of the awakening process.
Yeah, so for you, example, you definitely went through a real death and rebirth, those few years ago. But you're saying that you may also get back into the trials and so forth again, but just on a different level. Is that right?
Yeah, so that was one cycle of it. And, then I came back and I started teaching again, started letting go course. And so now I have a role as a mentor, a guide, still on my own journey. And I've just had to face, some enemies and, facing me and, apparently having opposed thoughts and a lot of conflict and abuse and so on. And that's just then another trial. So, okay, well, it's another test, another trial.
But you're not to know
of letting go.
But you're not really going to know how dramatic it's going to be. Like obviously a few years ago, it was obviously very, very challenging for you. Leaving your country and so forth.
Yeah, I mean that was my whole self-concept, and I was quite identified with the ego still, although I think so.
Right.
I was the dropping away of that. It was just predictive. I was like, I remember thinking to myself at one point, Jesus, Jono, this stuff's gonna kill you. Literally, those were the words came into my head. And then I laughed. The Holy Spirit came in and well, that's the whole point, isn't it? What did you think you were awaken, become enlightened, and take your ego with you? And that's ridiculous, isn't it?
Because there is somewhere in
Obviously,
there's somewhere in the course where it says it's likely that you will go through this birth and rebirth and death. But there is some people that can just sail through it. There's somewhere on that you did send it to me, the 6 stages of going through this.
Yeah, the development of trust.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
development of
Well, the
trust.
final stage, 4 of the stages are difficult, and the final stage is the period of achievement, which would be the awakened
But it
self,
doesn't
which would
have to
be, okay,
be, but didn't it say it doesn't have to be difficult or traumatic, but it often is. That's basically what it's saying.
yeah. He says, let's find it. So, it's the manual teachers. Yeah. So what does he say? Take to understand that all things, events, encounters, and circumstances are helpful. All the trials, the tribulations, the challenges, the failures are helpful.
Mm.
It does take a lot of learning.
But there's a bit where I think it's the fifth or the sixth stage where this is the bit when you're going through the hell, but it doesn't have to be, it's saying somewhere that, some people do seem to go through it without having to
Yeah,
go through what a lot of people have often go
yeah,
through, the
yeah. It
darkness of
says
the
here, need
soul.
not be painful. Firstly, they must go through what might be called. Okay, so you,
Oh,
you you
yes,
seem
there
to
we
be
go.
losing things. Things are being lost. Things are being let go of,
Ah,
and this
there's
need not
where
be
it is.
painful,
That's it.
but it usually is so experienced
Yeah,
because
that's the
we
bit I
attach to it.
noticed.
We
Yeah.
attach to that life. We attach to the ego. We identified with the self, and then it's all crumbling and being undone, and we go, oh my God, this is terrible. My world is falling apart. But it usually is so experienced because
Mm.
we're attached. So we struggle. And steps 1, 2, and 3 are really about letting go. Period of undoing. Then you have to sort out the valuable from the valueless, and you have to realize what is truly valuable and what is meaningless and valueless. And then there's another period of relinquishment where you've got to let go of the vacillations, the struggle. This is interpreted as giving up the desirable will engender conflict. Because I think I'm giving up what is something that's of value and is worthwhile. But if we do this, that actually what we thought would be terrible is actually quite happy, and I feel released and happy and lighthearted. He thought
Mm.
something was asked of him, he finds a gift bestowed on him. So the first 3 phases are difficult. It's all about undoing, letting go, a bit of settling down. So you might say, okay, well, I've kind of got it now. Got reasonable peace. It's a bit of a joke. Okay, so reasonable peace for a while, but it's not the end. Now he consolidates his life, to tell that how he thinks. He's not yet come as far as he thinks. But when he's ready to go on, goes to compare. Now he rests a while and gathers them before God. He will not go on from here. The mighty companions are not necessarily physical. He's not referring to people necessarily. He's talking about help from other dimensions.
Mm.
Angels, God, the Holy Spirit, really coming in and help you in ways. So now you go find two sisters, where again, then the fifth stage is difficult. You get unsettled, and you
Mm.
realize actually I didn't know anything.
Mm.
I actually, I thought I knew, but there's still some letting go to do. You
Mm.
must learn to lay all judgment aside and ask only what he really wants in every circumstance. Not each in this direction so heavily reinforced, it would be hard indeed. And so this is the letting go of all judgment of the world, saying, I'm just not going to judge because I'm just judging illusions. None of them mean anything. And once you've attained the ability to just not judge, that's forgiveness, then there's a period of achievement, and you can rest in peace, and that's the happy dream. That's the enlightened state. Heaven is there in your awareness. This is the state that people like Yeshua and the Buddha and so on attained. A period of achievement, and they then become what we call masters of the human condition and become the great teachers in the world. And he's saying, well, this is the final outcome of your learning. So if you compare that process to the hero's journey, it's not dissimilar, is it? They did slightly different model. Again, there's difficulty in the hero's journey. The first half of it is difficult. First three phases difficult. Then you get a breakthrough, a period of settling down, atonement, another period of unsettling, and then you come back. You return as the awakened self. So that would be 6. Stages 1, 2, and 3 would be along here. Stage 4 might get here to, okay, well, I'm feeling at reasonable peace. Period of unsettling, you could say, would be the death of the old self, which is another trauma. Even on the other side of that comes the period of achievement and awakening, where you can live in this as this transformed self. So, not dissimilar to the hero's journey. The hero's journey just frames it differently and shows it in a diagrammatic form, which can be really helpful. But it's essentially the same process, just described it differently, and both are valid. This just gives you a different perspective. The hero's journey gives you a different perspective from the course's perspective of the 6 stages of development of trust. But both are actually happening simultaneously. You're on your hero's journey, and you'll find that in the hero's journey, there's these periods of undoing and sorting out and relinquishment, and then settling down, and then unsettling again, and then achievement. Finally, you'll find those all come in the steps of the hero's journey. It just wasn't framed that way by Joseph Campbell and others. Okay, so I hope that helps to beginning of a new year, just to look at it again, understand where you're at. And remember, no matter what comes, that it's all part of the process of your awakening. So it's all good. No matter how difficult, challenging, potentially awful it seems to be. One of the most awful things, death, disaster, chaos, all these things that beset people is actually the greatest opportunity to awaken. Because if you've lost everything physically, let's say you're in a war and you lose your life and your home and you have to flee as a refugee, and there are people who go through that. What a way to undo your whole life and your identity. Period of undoing. And that is a major opportunity to undo the ego if you see it correctly. Or you can wail and gnash your teeth and go, oh, poor me, I'm such a victim, and life has treated me so unfair, and many people do. But if you saw it as the opportunity to awaken that it really is, then that experience could free your mind and wake you up to who you really are. And there are some people who use these traumatic experiences for that purpose, and then they become the teachers, the truly inspiring ones. Okay, you really used that experience for what it was for, which was to learn who you really are. Such as, say, Viktor Frankl. Imagine think of his experience in World War II. So, as a young man, he's just got married. He's now in the phase of trying to establish a career. He's a bright young up and coming psychologist, and then all just gets ripped out from under him. His family gets abducted and murdered. He gets sent to a concentration camp in horrendous circumstances for 4 years, I think it was. Massive undoing, massive sorting out of what is valuable and valueless, massive relinquishment of his old identity, and then he comes out of that as this transformed human being who brings this great teaching of logotherapy, meaning to the world. And he did that fairly early in his career. He was in his 20s when he went through this, forced on him. If he'd lived normally and he hadn't had that World War II and, got put in a concentration camp and had those experiences, then he would have probably just gone along and developed his career, and it probably wouldn't have necessarily developed the teaching that he did. He wouldn't have written Man's Search for Meaning, that's for sure, because it was based on his experiences in the concentration camp. So he took it and he said, this is actually what I need to really learn what I came here to learn and to teach. And as horrendous as the experience was, it was there to awaken me and help me awaken the world. And that's quite inspiring. So the greatest test and challenge is also the greatest point of awakening, and the call to your higher purpose, and the call to the resurrection from the crucifixion. And that's the hero's journey. Okay, so how are we doing? It's 15:15. Do you want to do the lesson?
Well, can we get
Lesson?
if we can do it quickly, because I have got a few
Yeah,
messages.
it's only 2 paragraphs.
Yeah.
Not too much deal. All right, so this is lesson number 324 we're on to. I'm merely faithful, not lead. It's a restatement. If you remember lesson 155 and 156, let me step back and lead the way. But you see a lot of these themes repeated. He's already done this 150 lessons ago, but he's reminding us again. Okay, same teaching, because probably you're 40 and listening to the guidance and letting the Holy Spirit be in charge of your life. So then you want to read the key idea translated. I took a bit of liberty and translated it somewhat differently.
Yes, I merely follow guidance, for I do not want to be in charge of my life.
Yeah, I would not. That's what he's meaning, right? It's not about me directing my life and trying to control things and manipulate things. I don't actually want that responsibility, because I get it wrong. My ego's got it wrong all my life. I'd rather let go and just follow the guidance of the Holy Spirit, which knows, everything, and will help me navigate in this difficult dream, navigate through the vision, follow my hero's journey to my awakening. And there you see great image of Yeshua. This is the experience in the Bible where he walked on water, and then Peter fell. Remember, Peter, he called Peter out of the boat, and Peter was walking on his faith, and he sank beneath the waves, and then he reached in and he pulled him up and said, okay, you're sinking because of your faithlessness, but there is a helper and a guide, your Christ self, your true self, that is the light, that's going to reach down and pull you up. And saying, follow that guidance to hand, and let that hand guide you in every all of your life situations. All right, so I'll read the original, you read the alternative. This is the prayer. So, Father, you are the one who gave plan for my salvation. Elaine, if you want to read the
Oh, yeah, I just
alternative.
couldn't see it there. Yeah, now I can. My source, you are the one who gave the plan for my awakening to me.
You have set the way I am to go, the role to take, and every step in my appointed path.
You have determined the way I am to go, the role I am to take, and every step in my appointed path.
I cannot lose the way.
I cannot lose the way.
I can but choose to wander off a while and then return.
I can only choose to wander off a while and then return.
Your loving voice will always call me back and guide me.
Your loving voice will always call me back and guide me truly.
All my companions can follow where I lead.
All my companions can.
I just read it. My brothers all can follow where I lead them.
All my companions can follow in the way I lead them.
Yet I merely follow in the way to you, as you direct me.
Yet I merely follow in the way to you, as you direct me and want me to go. And from the top, my source, you are the one who gave the plan for my awakening to me. You have determined the way I should go, the role I am to take, and every step in my appointed path. I cannot lose the way. I can only choose to wander off a while and then return. Your loving voice will always call me back and guide me truly. All my companions can follow in the way I lead them. Yet I merely follow in the way to you, as you direct me and want me to go. So it's just looking at our source and just telling us that our source is the one that has the plan to awaken us. And we can't lose the way. We can wander off for a little while, but we will return because this loving voice will call us back and guide us truly. And also our companions will follow the way that I lead them. But we merely follow in the way to our source as he directs us and wants us to go.
Yeah, this is what it means by surrendering. Call to God. It's surrender to this other voice. There's a voice in deep in your mind. There's a guide in a different way, very different way from yourself, from your ego. And that's in everyone. It's just that voice. We've got to get beyond the raucous shrieking of the ego, which tries to drown out that voice. And the loving voice. That's very helpful. It's very helpful. It's kind. It's loving. It's beneficent. It's gonna tell you what you need to do, where you need to go, what you need to say in every moment. When Yeshua sent his disciples out onto the road, he said, just listen to this voice, the Holy Spirit, and it will give you the words. If you're not sure what to say, don't worry. Don't be anxious. Don't be anxious about where you'll go and where you'll sleep and what you'll eat, because this voice will guide you. And so he's training them to start listening to this voice of the Holy Spirit. And that was preparing, what's to come when he left. He needed to send them out as training to do that. So it's the same thing he does. It's saying, okay, well, you go and live your life, live it in this guided way, the surrendered way. That's what it means to surrender to God. Not that you just sit passively in meditation all day, but that you guide words and actions by the higher self that interprets perfect oneness and says, okay, so from the perspective of this oneness, get what to think, say, and do in a situation. And that's what gives every situation from the perspective of oneness, and then says this is what you should say or do. So very helpful, very practical, and this is where the course is aimed at that practical level. If you look at, if I've shown this before, but I'll show it again in this context, just to remind you. So the Holy Trinity diagram, this would come up. I don't know why it's a bit slow today. I'm getting there. So the Holy Trinity just frames this quite nicely and shows us that we have this intermediary level of Christ, the Son of God, that we need to wake into. It's not going to ask me to log in for some reason. Don't know why. So let's go down here. Holy Trinity. So what he's calling us to do is become this true self, this Christ self, that knows that it is one with its source, pure formless awareness of perfect love, but is able to translate that into perception. And so our senses and our words and our thoughts and our actions in the dream then change. And then the dream world on the timeline, these circumstances, that all changes because I've gone into oneness and I've perceived the situation. I had a trauma, like a heart attack in this case, or I've lost my job. I perceive it differently, and that change of perception then inspires different words and thoughts and actions, and my dream flows forward in a different way. And so the Holy Spirit comes in to the dream and starts to transform it, and miracles happening in the seeming illusion of the world, and just demonstrate that there is a higher power, that there is a transcendentness that you can tap into, that can change things on this level of time in the dream. So we've been called to learn. Remember, the course is primarily about this process, going from being identified with a separate self and its identity and its world, with all its experiences, many of which are very unpleasant and painful, and changing our perception through this process of letting go of forgiveness, to awaken to who we really are. You can call that many things, as we saw the different names. This transformation process teaches itself, or the Christ, the Son of God, the extension of perfect love, the Buddha, the Atoll, whatever language you want to use, that is an extension of pure formless awareness of perfect love, that can live in the world for a while as that higher self, but now perceiving everything correctly. Perception or Christ's vision, and that helps you to change your mind about the dream and change your mind about yourself at the same time. And that's really what forgiveness or letting go does. Through changing your perception of the world, it teaches you who you are. You remember who you really are. And that is a precursor to this step, which the Course doesn't say very much about. It just says God will take the final step. So from the true self to formless awareness of perfect love, that's a step God will take, and we don't really have to worry about that. He doesn't give us any kind of mind training or instruction on that. He just says, do this step, identify fully with the true self by changing your mind about who you are, correcting your perceptions, and you will be ready for God to take the final step. So 99 focus is here in the Course, moving from here to here. And it's always worth remembering that. So some teachers will go, oh, well, that's all illusion, and it is, and really you just won, and we're all perfect. Or, well, yeah, that's level one, what we can call level one, and that's ultimately true. But if you're sitting identified with a separate self in your dream, and you're struggling and suffering and dying in the dream, then you need a way out. And so you need a guide, you need help, and you need the Holy Spirit, the remembrance of perfect love, to guide you out of that. And that's exactly what he's talking about here. The guidance, guidance. That's the guidance of the true self and the Holy Spirit, the remembrance of perfect love, that remembers love and then helps you reinterpret all of your perceptions in the world. So instead of being part of your life with a little ego and getting stuck in this robot, thinking that you really are a separate self, trying to make sense of it all, you start letting go of that and saying, no, I'm going to listen to the guidance. I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to identify more with my true self. And that's that's what this whole course is teaching. So it's a pretty simple process. What he's teaching isn't rocket science. It's one process. The diagram makes it pretty clear what you're doing, but to actually do this is to actually correct or let go, to experience the miracles, to rebirth, to resurrect, to transform, to undertake the second coming, to heal, to awaken, whatever language you want to use. That process is what we are learning through this course. Okay, so just one more paragraph, short paragraph to close it out. So let us follow one who knows the way. And then you can read
Oh,
first
I can't.
paragraph of alternative.
Yeah, okay. So I choose to follow the remembrance of perfect love that knows the way.
We need we accept an instant from his loving hand.
I need not delay and cannot stray except for a moment from its loving guidance.
We walk together before him.
We journey together, for we follow this guidance.
And it is he who makes the ending sure and guarantees a safe returning home.
And it's pure formless awareness of perfect love that makes the ending sure and guarantees a safe return home.
And then from the top.
So I choose to follow the remembrance of perfect love that knows the way. I need not delay and cannot stray except for a moment from its loving guidance. We journey together, for we follow this guidance, and it is pure formless awareness of perfect love that makes the ending sure and guarantees a safe return home. So it's just saying to choose the remembrance of perfect love, which knows the way. So we don't need to delay. And we don't need to stray, okay, for a moment from its guidance, its loving guidance, because you're journeying together with this guidance. And it's the pure formless awareness of perfect love that makes the ending sure and guarantees a safe return home.
Yeah. There is a guide, and you can your way out. So it seems to be sometimes a prison. And we've all had time in our lives when we've gone, am I ever going to get out of this? It's just a trap. I feel stuck and I feel trapped, and I don't know how to break free. And this is saying, well, you can. There's a guide that's going to show you the way out of this prison, which you let to follow the guidance, which will guarantee that you escape from the prison of your separate self and its insane dream, nightmare, and guarantee a safe return home, which I've capitalized. Home is your form of awareness of perfect love. Home is level one. Ken Wapnick called it. Home is here. God, Father, heaven, oneness, pure form of awareness of perfect love, as we call it. Source, Brahman, knowledge, spirit, reality. There's many other names, depending on the spiritual or religion. They've got a different name. It's all the same. It's an awareness. I think that's the key point. It's not some kind of some kind of separate entity from you. It's pure awareness that is your own awareness. that simple realization, if you realize that fully, you're a mystic, you're awakened, you get it. Okay, God is in my own awareness. I am God. Now, a lot of people, uh, especially formal religion, so that's blasphemy. Anyone who claims they crucified Yeshua, apparently. I mean, he also messed with their business model, but he said in the temple, they said that's blasphemy because there's something out there different from them, a superior being who sort of looks down on his creations as these sinful human beings. So how could such a separate sinful human being be one with this infinite, all-powerful being? Well, you must be, because God, God's awareness is what gives life. So we look at it here, ineffable consciousness or pure awareness. The top there is what is in every model. This is one of many of these kinds of developmental models, ends up in the same place. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It in the transcendent. His 8-level hierarchy. He had initially just 5 levels, ending in self-actualization, but at the end of his life, he came with 3 levels, and the highest level was the transcendent. Well, that's pure consciousness, pure awareness, ineffable. And in Yeshua's model, the period of achievement. When you go into love, joy, peace, and ultimate enlightenment, would be the period of achievement he talks about. So, yeah, whichever developmental model you use, it ends up in the same place. It's the same awareness that you're going to, whatever you want to call that awareness. And this has been the universal teaching of all the masters and mystics. They all teach this, the same awareness, the same ultimate destination, with different language and different modalities, a different pathway. So take the Buddha and Yeshua as an example. That they both were great teachers. They both understood the truth. The Buddha taught meditation, and he taught the Four Noble Truths and this Vipassana meditation technique to help people experience this. Yeshua taught forgiveness or letting go. Buddha called it non-judgment or non-judgment. And he taught prayer, which is a form of meditation. Pray to this awareness and connect with it in what he called prayer, as his version of meditation. So, they actually taught the same thing. They just did it differently. And they came from obviously a different time, different culture, different language. So that obviously influences. But if the two of them were together and they taught together, you wouldn't see, they wouldn't have any disagreements. They had the same understanding. Okay, so Elaine, I'm happy to do a meditation for you if you want, or if you want to end it here, we can do that.
Yeah, I'll just drop off here and I'll just listen later once I've done my messages.
Yeah, okay. Well, I've sent a recorded meditation this morning, so it's in the group.
Yeah,
it's in the
I'll
email
listen
as
to
well.
that.
Listen to that. It's half an hour, and practice the lesson, as well as takes you through the summary, through the what is creation.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
so include
Yeah.
meditation. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, so
Okay.
we'll leave it there. Thank you for joining the session again, and
Thank you.
you have a hero's journey day, and I will see you. So where are we? Tuesday.
Yeah, there's one
We
more.
could do a session tomorrow, but then you've had your 3,
Uh-huh.
or we could do Thursday.
Yeah, we'll do
One
Thursday.
session.
Yeah, we'll do Thursday. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so we do Thursday afternoon.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okie doke.
Okay.
Okay.
See
Namaste.
you then at about 1:30, shall we say?
Yeah,
All
that
right.
that should be good. Yeah. Okie doke. Good night.
All
Namaste.
right. Namaste. Night. Thanks for joining. Okay, so that is a wrap for today. Thanks to Elaine for joining. Thank you to you if you watched the live stream or you're watching the recording. A couple of things you can do to take it further. You can subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and you'll be notified whenever we go live, which is 3 or 4 times a week, doing these kinds of sessions. We generally do a quote, we do a lesson, sometimes we do an insert, sometimes we do text. We're looking at the Psychotherapy Purpose Processes Practices Manual. In just over a month, we start again from day 1, lesson 1 of A Course in Miracles. So if you want to find out more about that, go to lifepool.com, sign up to the Telegram group, and join us on the journey. I send out free daily inspirational quotes, some commentary on that, as you saw at the beginning of the session, an example of that. And you get a mind training lesson from Miracles translated into alternative language. You get a section of the text, or now we're busy with one of the supplements, the psychotherapy supplement, translated into an alternative language to help you understand it better. You get the short breath breaks, so many meditations help you practice the lesson, as well as longer meditations, as well as some other resources like movies and bonus recordings that really just reinforce the message. So it is a profound mind training process. There's a 6-week course starting mid-February called the Art of Letting Go course, and then that is the first 6 weeks of a 1-year transformational program called the Art of Letting Go. So go to lifepool.com, sign up, and you'll find out more, and you can join us in one of these live sessions soon to find out more about the program. So I hope you'll do that, take the next step in your awakening, and yeah, hope to see you soon. Namaste. Which means the true self in me acknowledges and honors that same true self in you. Wishing you much love, peace, and joy, and that's